Nice. I feel all bubbly and happy after that one. That's a good intro. Good afternoon, everyone. I'd like to thank you all for joining us on this episode of Chill with Jim, where it is always business up top and pajamas on the bottom. I am your host, Jim McCarthy, and I am the client advocate for Strix, Louisiana. My job is to make sure that our clients are set up with the best equipment, the best software, and the best possible IT solutions to help make sure that their businesses are running at optimal efficiency. We also have David DeArmond, the owner and founder of Strix Louisiana, with us.
Hey everybody, David DeArmond here. Jim, I think you blew out your mic there for a minute.
Oh, did I?
It's good now, but I mean it could not handle that excitement. Yeah, David DeArmond here, owner of Strix LA. Thanks everybody for joining us. Glad to be on this episode here.
All right. Well, I'll try to tone it down a little bit then. Just get so excited for these times. So a little bit about Strix before we start. At Strix, we believe that there's always a better, simpler, more secure way to do pretty much everything in this world. So what that means to our staff, to all of us at Strix Louisiana, is that we're constantly searching and adapting our processes to make sure that we do indeed have the best solutions in place. Now, as technology superheroes and experts, we believe that part of our responsibility is to help educate others out there. We want to bring awareness to some of the current resources that they may be using, make known any current security risks that are happening, and just kind of go over some of the technology trends in the world today. And so, a little bit about us. Before we dive in, remember that you can always find all of the Chill with Jims, all the episodes on our Strix Louisiana YouTube page. If you subscribe and if you hit the little bell, ring the bell, they say, you actually get notified every time we go live so that you don't miss it. I know when you guys miss it, you probably stay up most of the night crying. You don't get a lot of sleep. Then you got to wait until we're back on. So
Yeah.
If that happens, what we're giving you here is you can actually go and watch an old episode to soothe that crying right away, and then you'll get the notification next time.
That's good. Yeah, I hear a lot of people like they get to the end of this is I think our 61st Chill with Jim. So
61.
like they'll get to 61 and then they'll start back over at 3.
Two.
We're 2. Okay.
2.
Yeah, we didn't get the first one. Start back over, and just watch it over and over. And that helps them get through their day, through their week.
Yeah.
Very helpful.
And that's actually also what David makes the 3 daughters that he has do every day.
Yeah, well, I mean,
they just learn through
helps get them to sleep.
Ouch.
Not nice.
Ouch. Okay. Well, so you can catch all of our episodes there. Be sure to like us. If you want to go on Facebook, you can interact with us. It all comes in here at StreamYard. So we appreciate the support. And now that we're done with the promoting part, we will go ahead and dive right in to our topic today. Dive right in, just like the bubbles, the waters.
Yeah.
So the question, the topic, is your data leaking? How sharing your data can turn bad and turn into quite a powerful leak very, very quickly. Who boy? So who out there just got a little bit nervous, got the chills a little bit?
Yeah, it did make me also think of the old prank call. You call, is your refrigerator running? You better go catch it. Is your data leaking? I don't know what the joke is there, but anyway.
Well, that's okay because I already have one for you. It's coming up soon here. So today we will discuss data leakage. excuse me, sir, is your data leaking, or are you just happy to share with the entire world all of that data?
Nice.
There you go. There you
That's
go.
much better.
All right. So today, what we're going to go over, just a little insight so you know what's going to happen today. We're going to just talk about, first of all, what is a data leak? What is data leakage? We're going to go through some of the common ways this happens and some of the accidents that we make to make this happen. After that, we'll talk about some of the risks involved, some of those causes of when the data does leak. What are those consequences? And then we'll finish it off with ways to prevent it from happening to make sure that we can keep you and your data nice and safe and plug any of those holes along the way. So, first things first, what is a data leak? What does data leakage refer to? Well, it's a situation in which sensitive or confidential data escapes an organization. Uh, in the individual everyday user, it's when this same thing happens to their personal data. So the leaked data becomes, since it's out there, since it's just kind of out in the open, it becomes very vulnerable to potential unauthorized use, malicious use, and all kinds of other bad things that leads. It's kind of like if you have something super valuable inside of your house, you bring it outside, a drone. You're playing with your drone outside, and you forget to bring it back inside. You're just leaving it out there for any potential person, thing to go by, grab it. Maybe even it's not a person, place, or thing. It could just be the rain comes and ruins your drone. So there's a lot of accidents when that'll happen if you're exposing this data out there. Now, some of the issues here is that when it does fall into the wrong hands, it can be very expensive to mitigate. It can be very, very hard to get back sometimes. So this term can be used to describe data that is being transferred electronically or physically. So you're looking at data leaks can happen over the web, over email. You think of all the cloud resources that we're using right now. Those are possible areas you can accidentally leave some of that data out for someone to grab. But then there's also the mobile storage devices. We're looking at USB flash drives, cell phones, laptops, and IoT devices. Now, expert superhero Mr. David,
Mm.
can you explain IoT devices for our listeners out there?
Yeah, well, IoT stands for Internet of Things, and so it's really a way to designate all those little things that get connected to the internet. So you see them a lot, thermostats, and even refrigerators today. Your TVs, your any smart device, light bulbs. Those are all IoT devices, and they're things. They exist out there, and they typically have some sort of internet connection. That's what makes them smart. You can use your phone, or you can use your computer while you're in Cancun. You can turn your lights on at your house, or turn the oven on and off. That way, when you're down the road 20 minutes and you're like, did I turn the oven off? Who cares? I just get on my phone, not make sure it's off, right? Well, that means it's connected to the internet. And so that's the Internet of Things. And it just happens to be a leaky bucket as well, because all of that information, there's actually more information than you may think that's stored in that little thing. And since it's connected to the internet, how secure is that information? That's what you need to be thinking about there.
Yep, yep. And so with a lot of what we talk about, you start to see the similarity to the ease of use. So how easy it is to do certain things in this world comes back to security is probably not going to be as sound with these new easy things like not having to turn off your oven. Or I've given the example before. My roommate has this Bluetooth grill where you can control the temperature. You can with his phone. So he puts a brisket on out there, and once it's in there, he really doesn't have to do anything else. He can alter the temperature up and down as he needs, and pretty amazing technology. But it does create maybe a couple of doorways you don't quite want to have, or
Yeah,
like they said.
You definitely don't want someone burning your brisket.
Burnt brisket
Right.
that's like, seems like there could be some kind of saying there, you know.
My briskets are burning.
The burnt brisket and the hole is worth two in the bush or something. I don't know. There's, yeah, sure. That's terrible. So as you can tell, we're very, very serious on this Chill
Yes.
with Jim episode.
Yeah.
So for the now you're thinking, okay, so I have a lot of data, a lot of things I touch in and out. Let's just go with the everyday individual personal use. So things like my name, my email address, my phone number, like what's the big deal here? Why am I worried about this even leaking out? And you
Yeah.
know, like, yeah, it's just my email address. I mean, they could probably look it up on Facebook, right? Is that a possible place to leak data? So, the primary target for the cyber criminals when it comes to the everyday individual personal user, they're looking for your personally identifiable information. In the business, we come up with all kinds of technical, really long ways to remember things. So, came up with PII for personal identifiable
That's why we say PII.
information. That's why we say it, because people
Too
like
hard to
me
say.
can't say it.
Blah, blah, blah. PII.
Yes, the PII.
Yeah.
So the personal information. This could include social security numbers, credit card numbers, bank accounts, but it doesn't have to be that, you know, financially based. It can be all kinds of other personal details that could result in eventually identity theft. So we're looking at simple things like maybe it's a relative's name or your mother's maiden name.
Right.
These are all little pieces of data that we can just kind of put out there that can actually help the cyber criminal do malicious things.
Yeah. I mean, if you look at today versus, I don't know, 10 years ago, most of the banks or anywhere you had financial data, they would ask, you know, what's your mother's maiden name, and that was a little piece of information that generally only you probably knew, and some thief would not know that. I don't even ask that anymore because there's so much data that's been leaked out there. Everybody knows what your mother's maiden name is now, and that's an example of how the world has changed because of so much data leakage. But that's the start of it, and it continues to grow day after day.
Yep. So they're looking for, you know, anything that can identify you: home address, phone number, email address, usernames, passwords. They're also looking for your activity information. So beyond that, your online shopping habits, your payment history, your browsing habits, and just really they want to, sometimes they want to collect just your usage. So how much are you using this, that, or this other entity? They can do a lot with this information. I'm sure all of you have seen those fun interactive Facebook things where it's like 15 questions, and once I answer them, I'm going to tag 10 people and have them answer the questions. It's things like, what was the first automobile that you owned? What high school did you go to? What elementary school did you go to? Maybe the first grade teacher you had, your mother's maiden name. So I think all of us might have done it at some point. When you fill those out, you are leaking your data to a very, very, very public source.
Yeah.
Facebook or MySpace or LinkedIn, whatever it is, those little questions are put out there probably for a reason. And you definitely want to be careful with what you give away. I know that some of the accounts I've created, they're asking me for what was the first model car I owned, who was my first grade teacher,
Right.
things like that. So
Yeah, and I know what was it, just a year or two ago, where that Facebook app that would show you what you're going to look like in 20 years. You put your face at all the different angles, And that's more data leakage. That's your facial profile. I mean, your phone uses that for your Face ID, right? If you can rebuild that as a bad guy, you put an app out there and everybody loves it. Oh, look, this is what I look like. Thank you, because now I can get into your phone.
And we know,
Appreciate all those angles.
yeah, and we know David didn't have to do that because I mean, just look at him. You don't have to imagine what he looks like when he's old. That was Phil Collins solo. So, along with that app, that Making You Old app, actually, when you sign up for it, there was all of this information where it's like, oh yeah, well, Russia wants this information, so if you sign up for this app, we're going to give it to Russia and maybe China too, and we can use it against you in any way you want. Just hit OK on this 1,000,000-word contract that we're going to make you sign. So
you're going to read all of it. Everybody reads those.
I read it like I read my employee handbook. Very, very detailed. I memorized it all. So, now looking at the other spectrum, the other side is for a business. Okay, so the primary target is going to be similar most of the time for the cyber criminals. They're going to want your employees' social security numbers, financial information. But for most organizations, the cyber criminal is actually just looking for that open door because they want to gain as much access to your internal systems as possible. With businesses, with organizations, we're finding that the bad guy strategy is going to be the waiting game. They're going to find as many ways into your internal resources to build up this stash of all of this data and stuff.
Yeah.
And once they get kind of where they can't go any further, they're hitting the dead end, then they'll let you know that they're there.
Yeah, well, we had that Chill with Jim episode a while back about the kill chain. I still love that name, the cybersecurity kill chain, and it's the steps or what a cyber criminal is going to go through as they hack you. And the first part of that is reconnaissance, and they're gathering information. Maybe they're going to Facebook and reading your Facebook and answering or seeing all those answers that you put. And now any email that you get from the bad guys is going to look more legitimate. Hey, this person knows something about me. It's probably a legitimate email. No, they've just collected all of the data that you leaked all over the place. They're gathering all of that information so that they can make a better attack into your systems.
Yep. Yeah, that's correct. So for businesses, for larger organizations, some other examples of the targeted data they're going to look to collect, internal communications, so memos, emails, documents, details about company operations. They're going to look at your metrics. They're going to try to get some performance stats, maybe some projections for your company, collect all of that metrics data, house it somewhere, and then they're going to look into strategy. So maybe the roadmaps you have, maybe some of the contact lists that you keep and internally, critical business information. This is all very, very high profit, let's say, data for the bad guys. And so,
yeah, I mean, sorry, Jim. I'm thinking of the big ransomware attack on the Colonial Pipeline system. The ransomware that was used to attack that pipeline was ransomware as a service. So someone else performed the service of building the ransomware. We have similar things here with data leakage. There are organizations out there, and they could be considered legitimate, and they're just going, maybe they'll pick a company and they'll just start gathering information about that company. They never use it for nefarious means, but they do sell it to those who are interested in attacking that company. So they're performing this data gathering as a service. I mean, the whole industry has gotten so big now that it's getting specialized. And hey, I build ransomware. Oh, I steal data that is leaked publicly. So yeah.
And you might be thinking, well, like memos, what are they gonna do with a memo? So we like to include some personal experiences, some strict superhero moments that we've had along the way. And one of them was one of our clients had fallen for a phishing attack. And we have some rules in place so that we're alerted when certain types of emails or certain configurations within your email service are changed. And we got an alert that there was this rule created. And so we looked into it, and sure enough, through that phishing attack, the bad guys had actually gotten some of their company letterhead, and they were filling out bills like invoices to some of their other clients, sending them out and asking them to just, all they got to do is send it electronically to a different account. Now it's the same process that you guys have done before. So it's nothing new. We just set up a new bank account, and we'd love for you. You can see our company headers on here. It's a handwritten note signed, but they had actually gotten the memos. They had gotten the letterhead. They went ahead and made their own invoice, and we're trying to send this out to their clients. And luckily we caught it along the way, but that's, one of those things where you're like, well, what's the big deal? They get
Yeah.
They get one of our invoices. What's the big deal?
Yeah, I mean, you may put that out in some sort of public space because you think, no, it's not that big of a deal. But this was an attack into the systems, and so the attacker had to go through a little bit of extra work in order to spring this leak of data. But when you're putting things like invoices out on public spaces, maybe you're super proud of your business. You got a business going, and you just invoice the biggest invoice you've ever had, and you're so proud, and you just want to put it out there and let everybody see how well you're doing with your business. And hey, now they've got a copy of your letterhead. They know exactly how you send invoices, and they can pretend to be you better.
Yeah, many ways. One of the big ones here that I guess probably isn't talked about as much, but trade secrets. So you're thinking of the way that your company, whatever their niche is, whatever their secret sauce is, the plans, formulas, designs, information maybe about an upcoming product that you're going to release or service. It's getting down to where those people who customize some software, they're going to go in and they're going to steal that code. They're going to steal the ways that you write that software. They're going to look at maybe some of the commercial methods that you use, strategies and contacts, and they're going to gain this. They're going to do whatever they want with it. They can spin up their own company if they want with your information, or sell it to a bidder, and the other bidder is doing what you want to do. Or they can just really disrupt many years of research. So some of the main targets we're looking at for businesses now, when you get into health information and government entities, that's another high dollar topic or data.
Yeah, you get into the medical space, and now we've talked mostly about data that leaks, that it hurts your company. It makes you maybe more prone to attack. But when you start leaking things like other people's PII, now you have liability associated with it as well. You have regulations that maybe you violated. If you're talking about CMMC, you're talking about leaking sensitive Department of Defense data. Those are, there are some serious ramifications for doing things like that. So yeah, the more sensitive to data, the more sensitive the data, the more serious the ramifications.
Yeah, and that's a big reason why these compliance standards have been out there for a while, but now they're actually auditing them and making sure people are doing them, is because things like HIPAA, CMMC, they are huge risks to a lot of people. And David's talking about, what if you accidentally release some health information about your patients? In the same effect, when you're a business, if you accidentally release client information, customer information, even if it's small, let's say it's people's emails addresses, the reputation, the damage that it does to your reputation is so hard to get any traction back into their trust.
Yeah.
even if you're doing everything right.
Yeah, trust is so easy to lose. You can do a million things to develop trust, and it will only take one thing to destroy all of it. And so you don't want that to be some information that you just didn't take care of. If it's a client's trade secret, you do work for someone else and you accidentally expose a client's trade secrets, and somebody beats them to the punch, and hey, they're not going to trust you again in the future.
Yep. And so with all this talk, you may be thinking, all right, well, is there a difference between a data leak and a data breach? Now, the breaches are probably the ones that most people hear about. The Colonial Pipeline, that was a full-out breach. So most of the information you're going to find out there, they're going to define a leak as being something accidental, while a data breach is going to be the result of some kind of attack. So a data leak does not really require any cyber attack, and it generally stems from like poor data security practices, or maybe an accidental action or inaction by an individual or an entity, where the data breach is going to have, it's going to be a successful attack that was perpetrated that gives them access to this sensitive information. And just to highlight that a little bit, I saw David's eyebrows go up, but the inaction of an individual or entity,
Yeah,
that's a big one.
I'm thinking of that Zero Trust episode that we did not too long ago, where Zero Trust is about kind of more about inaction, and Zero Trust assumes that you're going to take inaction. It doesn't make any sense, but you're by not locking something down, you leave it open. And so the Zero Trust philosophy is you never put anything anywhere unless it's locked down, and then you open it up little by little. So many times, and it's happened countless times with data sets that are put on Amazon services or something like that, and because people are not careful with the configuration, because they don't take those extra steps to protect that data, it's just open to the world. Anybody can go there, and perfectly legal too. It's not like they're breaking any laws by going and getting this sensitive data that you put out there on public servers.
Right, right. It's like, oh, I'm gonna sue that person who read my diary that I left out at the public library.
Right.
Yeah. It's you can't really, you left it there, man. You left it out for everybody to read.
Yeah.
So little more, I hope everybody has a good kind of bigger picture of what a data leak is, some of the information they're looking for, some of the ways it can harm you. But let's talk about some of the common ways that this data does get leaked. What are some of the reasons for it leaking out that pipe? Well, fortunately for all of us, human error tops the chart. And almost everything you will watch on Chill with Jim, the statistics point directly back, number one, to human error. And so, yeah, it's a little sad. But there are many ways that we can accidentally leak data. There's simple mistakes we make. David just mentioned it, misconfigurations. So I misconfigure something to where now anyone can have easy access to it. The accidents by the users, third-party carelessness, and using out-of-date software. So let's take a deeper look to help us realize the problems of our own humanity. First, and still in full effect, the Post-it note on your computer with your password written on it. You know what? Perhaps this Post-it note, it also has your username on there, which is right alongside of where these credentials can be used. Maybe eBay, maybe Facebook, maybe your accounting software. This is a very common one, believe it or not, where your password is just left out in plain view. So that's a leakage of data right there. It means anyone walking by your desk can see your password including the HVAC people, the janitors, whoever it is, now knows that I use my dog's name with a capital B and a number 1.
I'm thinking I can't say I've actually seen this, but I know it has to have happened where, if somebody takes a selfie and posts it on Facebook, and behind them somewhere is that post a note with their password to their bank or something like that.
I'm sure it's happened. I'm almost positive. We see a lot of sticky notes in the industry, so that's one way you can just accidentally leak some data. Now, another common incident is sharing information to more entities than the one who needed it. So, a few examples here. You accidentally hit reply all on that email of your opinion. And your opinion was only meant to be seen by Fran from accounting. But now the rest of your company understands just exactly what you don't like about the company. Now, the reply all feature is very powerful and we can all use it to very, very good means, but there's quite a few times where the reply all button will be hit, and usually it's not a huge deal, but it's like, oh, oops, this was only supposed to be for Tom. Sorry to send it out to everybody over in this email thread.
Yeah, you're talking about Fran from accounting. You send something. Oh well, to get into the bank account, here's the username and password. Number one, never put that in email anyway. But I can see someone doing that, not realizing they just hit reply all, and it's got clients and everybody else on this email.
Yeah, or there's we've had it before working with a company where they did almost like a email all contacts, and so now you can see every single company that this company is working with.
Yeah.
And have access to their entire client base.
Yeah, and you want to talk about make people mad. I've had that happen a few times where some vendor of ours will send it out to their entire user base, and you see all of these emails, and some of the responses you get back from those people, they are peeved because they were just it was just publicly announced that Acme is a client of supersecure.com, and now all the bad guys know that Acme uses supersecure.com, and so they know better how to attack them. That's happened a few times, and you want to talk about make some people angry, and they will absolutely leave you as a client because you just exposed them to the world.
Yeah, they won't only leave, they're going to make sure that a lot of people know exactly what just happened.
Yeah.
You'll see these on LinkedIn where it's like, I can't believe this company did this. Look at everybody. And then some of the replies to these emails, and David shared some of them with me before when this happens, but we're talking death threats. Like,
get serious.
People are legitimately so upset that they want to make sure your company never does business ever again. So that's another way. Got to be very careful. Sharing sensitive data via a cloud resource like OneDrive, Dropbox, something like that. Again, it's pretty easy to accidentally add extra people and share that data with people who don't need it. So be careful of that. And then saving all of your passwords into Google or your other browsers is another way you can easily leak access to things. So what that means is that anybody who gets onto your computer now can get into any of these resources. They don't have to know anything. It's already saved.
Yeah.
We all like to be diligent about locking our computers when we get up and go to the bathroom. Some of us don't even have a lock on our computer, so that just means, again, you're kind of leaving these doorways open. David mentioned the misconfigurations, giving full access to those who don't need it again, allowing data to be easily maybe copied or transferred, or maybe it's a simple setting like auto-filling a field from the last information that's used. So yeah, there'll probably be good for the user to have that. Let's put autofill in there, not realizing that everybody who uses this is going to be able to see that sensitive data that was just put in the last time the system was used. So quite a few holes there. Now, third-party carelessness. David, we would like to share some stories here. So I would like you to share a story about maybe a vendor of ours that was a little careless with who had access to what recently that you found.
Yeah, well, I'm not gonna
No names.
no names. I'm not gonna put names out there, but it is a vendor of ours, and I completely found it by accident as I was going through our account and wanted to look at some subscription information. And I clicked on the subscription button and I pull it up and I see everybody's subscription and I see what they're doing with that subscription, and I had the ability to shut those subscriptions off and change the billing information. And there was a whole lot of data that was leaked there. And if I'm someone who wants to use that for my own gain, I could have done some serious damage. And I reached out to the parties involved, and they took care of the issue. But um, it it's not on purpose. They didn't purposefully make a mistake. And a lot of times it's like you mentioned at the beginning, it's to make life easier. They were doing something that they created to make life easier for their clients, and they accidentally opened up a hole that exposed a lot of information that should not have been exposed.
Yeah. So human error, misconfiguring the way that the software should work. So you're going to start to see all of these can kind of blend in together. One that's talked about a lot is, using an older version of a software, using an outdated version of something out there, because it takes time to update this stinking software that wants to update every stinking week. And I don't want to take the time this week. I'm just going to do my work, put my head down, and I'm going to focus, do that update next week, or maybe put it off. Very, very common practice. Very, very hard to catch. So even if you have very good security policies as a company, you're not always going to catch if someone's using 0.3 instead of 0.4 as their version. Zoom was a great example of this when we all got pushed into the work from home environment about a year ago. Zoom was having update after update after update, but it's because with so many people using Zoom, they're finding vulnerabilities, they're finding problems. Those Zoom bombings, the people coming in and bombing your Zoom meeting, they fixed it, but you had to take the time to put the update in.
Yeah, and that's one of those areas that for some people it was a Zoom bomb, and they make themselves known that they're there and they think it's funny. For other people, they just joined and listened. And that's where, we talk about trade secrets. What was happening a lot on those Zoom calls? You're talking about strategy. You're talking about business strategy. How are you going to react to COVID and no longer having maybe physical access to your clients? And so you're building new ways of doing things and trying to gain a competitive advantage. And guess what? A competitor is sitting there listening to everything you're saying, and they're taking notes, and now they know how to combat what you're doing. So um, yeah, and it's because you didn't take those 5 minutes to update that Zoom client.
Yeah, yeah, and we've all experienced it where it's that pop up and oops, somehow our subconscious comes, takes hold of us, and all we do is hit X. We don't even read it. It's very easy to deny these things or to not really pay attention, especially with those version updates, because you're like, well, Zoom's working. I don't need to update it. It works fine. I'm not going to update it. So another thing to be wary of. And then some other things we're talking about, shadow IT. Sounds like something from a spy movie or something. Well, think about all the official company IT tools that your company uses, the procedures, the policies that you have in place. Well, people don't always want to follow the rules you put out there. So they might be finding a way to get around a process that takes too long, in their opinion, or they're going to shortcut something, or maybe they're going to use some technology that they consider more efficient. So what employees, other insiders do is they create this shadow IT environment where there's all of these different tools and ways of doing things put in place that, again, they're just kind of opening more doors for either a leak, maybe it's for the bad guy to get in, maybe the software has got some holes in it, all kinds of things. And it happens quite often because the individual wants to do their job in a certain way, and they believe that they can make it quicker and easier, and they, there's nothing malicious about this. They just think it's helping the, yeah, instead of putting 2 minutes on my company reports, I can use this service and it cuts it down to 45 seconds. I'm making them more money.
Yeah.
It creates some serious ways for the bad guys to creep around.
And that's why we added that. We talk about, Strix started out as better, simpler. We're always looking for a better, simpler way, and we realize that's not enough, because sometimes the better, simpler way is not very secure. And so the third thing that we're always looking at is it better, simpler, and secure. Better, simpler, secure.
Yep. So when even if you just change a process around, you could be really negating the reason that process is secure. So be careful with that out there. Everyday tools that we use all the time: email, your email, and your email, and your email is probably one
Like
way
you're
that,
really trying to stress email.
yeah, there's that's where us humans get into a lot of trouble. We leak data accidentally. We'll fall to a phishing scheme, hit that reply all, and now everybody knows everything that they're not supposed to know. Whatever it is, email is a big one. Be careful. USB and other external storage devices. So, how many people out there in Facebook world have misplaced or lost a USB flash drive? See, there's 1.5 million people raising their hand right now.
They did it simultaneously too. That's amazing.
We have this quick software that even if they just raise their hand in their room, it lets us know.
The webcam, yeah.
Yeah. So imagine that flash drive has just some information. Maybe it's some names, some email passwords, maybe just some email addresses. Well, it's going to help that cyber security or cyber criminal who finds that USB dropped out in the park. It's going to help them complete a cyber attack, because that's the one piece of the puzzle they needed.
Yeah, and it may just be an opportunistic person as well. You drop something that somebody picks up and they put it in their computer and they see, oh well, this looks valuable. So maybe I'll just I'm an enterprising young lad here. I will offer it to the people that I know it belongs to, and I will offer it to their biggest competitor, and I'll just see who's willing to pay more for it. I can do that, right? That is illegal, by the way, but it can happen.
Yeah, it can happen. And then you think about your network of people. So who has access to things, right? So you got maybe some contractors, partners of your company, employees. When we're talking about the individual, your family members, right? So just all it takes is one of those people to be given a piece of data to be a little bit careless with it. So maybe you're not the one that drops that, but maybe it's someone else that had access that drops that USB, and yowzes. Lastly, we'll talk about, I can't believe it, our trash. What? The way that we throw things out, the way that we dispose of these devices is now a problem too, David?
It's been a problem. I mean, it's been a problem for a very, very long time. There's been dumpster divers for as long as there's been paper. You throw the paper out, people will dig through your your trash. And if you have super sensitive data, I've heard of it. Even if you shred it, the original paper shredders, they would just make several cut lines, but it all kind of fell together. And so people would go dumpster diving. They would grab the bag of shredded paper and they'd go back and rebuild the paper because it wasn't shredded very well and it wasn't mixed up. So yeah, if you have sensitive information that can be valuable to someone, they'll dig in the garbage for it. Why not?
Yeah. Yeah. And we saw a really big increase in data leaks last year. And why was that? What happened last
Something
year?
happened last year?
COVID. Oh, that's right. Let's just find one more thing to blame COVID for. Why not? Add it to the list. But that rapid shift to promote work dramatically, or to promote work from home, work from anywhere, it dramatically increased the amount of data that was being leaked. A recent study that we were looking at showed that 85% of companies that were interviewed said they sacrificed a little on their cybersecurity just to get people to be able to work from home because they don't want any downtime.
Yeah, that brings up a great point that a lot of times businesses, they're looking to save a little money, and they get maybe the least expensive thing out there, or they don't get something because it's going to cost a little extra money. And that may be fine if the market and the environment stays exactly like it is now. But one thing we know with technology, and we've seen, you can't even trust health anymore. That something may change, and it may change drastically. It may change quickly, and if you don't have all of those pieces in place, then you have to make a decision. You have to make a decision. Are we going to shut down our operations until we can implement the right technology, or are we going to open ourselves up to perhaps leaking some data? And a lot of companies decided, we don't want to stop production, so we take a chance on leaking data, and a lot of them did.
Yeah, yep. So we've had people ask us a few times, just like, what is the worst type of data leak that's out there? And for me, I believe this is very specific to each individual or business. Now, depending on how valuable that data is to that person, that company, that's where I think it's going to really determine it. Now, David, I don't know if you have any thoughts on the worst type of data leak out there.
Well, I know medical data is the most valuable. So if you look at the going rate for data on the black market, medical data is the most valuable. So I would say that's probably the biggest threat, or the worst one you could imagine, because you're going to get hit. It's a high value target, so people are going to be looking for it. So you make any little mistake, people are going to find it, and there's so many repercussions from it. You of course lost the data. Your clients are unhappy with you, and you have to make restitution to them. You're going to get fined by HIPAA and the regulating authorities. So that's such a huge blow. I would pick medical data, but it's that you're just talking about the worst type of data leak. I'd say medical data. That doesn't mean the others are, they're not that bad.
Right. And so we had some great discussion today, so I'm going to whip through a little bit of this. Possible consequences of a data leak. So for an individual, maybe one of the worst ones would be identity theft. So now you have someone acting as you and California spending all your money. It's a big one. Credit card fraud, black market sales. So a lot of times once they get this data, they're not going to offer it back to you. They're just going to go sell it to the highest bidder on the dark web. Extortion. Hey, remember when Pam sent out that email saying how much she hated the company? And I could just show the boss that email. Extortion. Degrading competitive advantages. We talked about that. Those trade secrets getting out there. So, David, is there any way I can 100% guarantee that my data is not going to be leaked?
I guess have no data. That's about, the only
Sound like the
the only
FBI guy.
yeah, I know, right? You're not going to stop it completely. I mean, even if you think, okay, I've got no paper, I've got no computers, there's no way I can leak data. You hear all the time about people that say things they shouldn't say, right? Yeah, we leak from our own mouths sometimes. So no, there's no 100% guaranteed way. Just like with cybersecurity, there's no 100% way that we're going to stop any and every attack that's going to come at us. What we're trying to do is decrease the likelihood of something like that happening. So yeah, just make it harder to leak data and make it harder for bad guys to steal data.
Remember those layers we talk about. We, as cybersecurity superheroes, want to create as many layers in front of that bad guy, so he's got to get through obstacle after obstacle after obstacle. Eventually, hopefully, he gives up. And so creating layers.
I'm thinking of like I don't know if this has ever happened to you, but you have, let's say, chicken from the store and it's in that bag, and you know how slimy the inside of that can get, and it leaks, and so you grab a grocery store bag, one of those plastic ones, to put it in. You're like, oh well, these a lot of times they have holes, so let me get two of them, and you get two and you wrap it up and it still leaks. You put an extra layer in and it still leaked.
Yeah.
Extra layers are good. It doesn't mean it's not going to happen, but they're good.
For Louisianians especially, how many bags does your crawfish come in? Your boiled crawfish. So it's usually in 2 plastic bags that are inside 2 paper bags.
Yeah.
And it still gets onto the floor of my car somehow.
Yeah. You're still going to have the smell of crawfish in your car for the next 3 weeks.
Yeah. Yep. So, well, we will just give you a few ways that can help you slow the leak. So one of them, just creating a culture of security, of promoting information security, having good cyber hygiene. We talk about that a lot. You can do this with a lot of your procedures, your policies in place. If you're a company, if you're an individual, it's kind of like having that escape route plan that you have for everybody in the family. Oh, we're going to meet in the do this, and then we'll meet over by the big oak tree or whatever. So, just kind of have it laid out with your family that, hey, this is how we should operate. This is what we should do. Please be careful with passwords. Please be careful putting your names and your mom's maiden name out there and all that stuff. So just creating a culture of promoting security. As a company, you can regularly train and educate your employees. But again, you can do that with your friends and your family members. So use a lot of those opportunities that you hear about to help inform people of maybe something you heard on a Chill with Jim, or maybe if they're about to take their picture with that turn you into an old person app, you give them some of the information that you've gathered along the way, try to help them out. Companies, you can pay for cybersecurity training, you can get some real education in place there. Need to know basis. We talk about this a lot. So for access, David, how does that apply?
Well, that's that zero trust that we were talking about before, right? It's if you only put information out to those who need to know, and you start with zero trust. Nobody needs to know. And now you say, okay, well, Fran from accounting needs to know. So we will add Fran. And now the only person that can access it is Fran from accounting. And if you've got, whoever you need to add, you add them on one at a time.
Yeah, that's definitely a great way to handle it. It's quite easy to give more access than you really need, and so break it down into a much more granular process instead of including all of the emails from accounting or all of the contacts from accounting. Well, I don't know why accounting's getting used like crazy today. Pick those individuals specifically. You might even see there was an old contact in there that doesn't even work for the company anymore, or changed departments, something like that. So good way to handle it. And then we talked about the trash. So be careful with how you throw things away. Very good shredding services out there, very good shredding machines out there for paper, for other assets.
And start a fire, just always a good reason to start a fire. You throw that shredded paper in, it burns quick and easy. Not in your house or in your office. Don't do it inside, but
And please don't burn a bunch of credit cards because we don't need that in our atmosphere. So, and then look at, so the shredding is one way. You can buy a shredder for your office or for your home. Helps big time. I can't tell you, every week I get a check in the mail. That's a certified check. All I have to do is sign it, and I get the amount on the check, and it's just from some lending company.
it's amazing.
Yeah, all I have to do is sign it, and they give me like $3,000 to spend, and it's a legitimate check. I mean, so please be careful with that. I thank my roommate for pointing that out because I just thought it was, oh, whatever, this is bogus. He's like, dude, look at that check. It's a certified real check.
Yeah, you sign your name, and now you're on the hook.
Yep. So, and then data destruction. So all of these devices that we use, we're not going to use them forever. When it's time for them to leave, for them to be replaced, make sure you have a good data destruction policy in place. If you don't, bring those devices to someone who does. Your IT professional should be able to help you with it. But for us, any data that's going to be put or that's no longer used, we're going to run it through our wiping process, which is like a 3-pass random number thing that destroys all the data and is DoD certified. So that's the way we do it. A lot of companies have their own way. If it is just taking that hard drive out back and drilling holes in it, I got to tell you, as a cybersecurity specialist, there is still a way to get data off of it. But for your home, it's very, very difficult. And for your home, it's a pretty good measure to take. So
yeah. They actually make shredders for hard drives too.
Yep. And degaussers. So degaussers, you hit it with a super strong magnet and it screws up all the data. And so some ways for you all out there to help prevent it from happening. I'd like to thank everyone just for coming out, and hopefully you enjoyed the topic today. If you didn't notice, last week we did not have a Chill with Jim, and that's because we're actually going to switch things up a little bit here. We're going to do a bi-weekly Chill with Jim. That's going to give us a little more time to make the content newer, cooler, more mesmerizing, more astonishing, informative, and then also give you guys a little bit more time to plan it into your schedule, because I know, like I said, we don't want you going to bed crying if you miss it. So
yeah. Well, and we're getting into so many episodes. It was getting difficult for people to watch every episode in between each week. Now they do have 2 weeks to watch every episode twice.
Yes, and we will still have special guests. We're going to try to shoot for one every month. We're going to get a special guest on here to share their expertise. And David, speaking of next episodes, what do we have coming up 2 Wednesdays from now?
Well, I think we do still have to get confirmation, but it's one of these special guest episodes, and we're going to have actually 2 people on, 2 people that have been on Chill with Jim before. We're going to be talking about pen testing, and we're going to be looking at it from both sides of the story. We're going to have Harley Kimball, who is our pen tester, our certified, the guy we go to for pen testing. And then we're also going to have Courtney Sparkman, who owns a software as a service company, and he's gone through pen testing before. He has to go through pen testing because he has to make sure that his software is secure and they're not leaking data anywhere. And so we're gonna have both of them on at the same time, so you'll get a sense of what it's like to do the pen testing. You'll get a sense of what it's like to receive the pen testing. So that ought to be fun, and they're both just they're very entertaining people. So it ought to be.
Yeah.
I'm excited. It's gonna be a good
If you haven't watched those episodes, go back and check out Courtney and Harley's episodes. They're really, really good ones. They're some of our top special guests for sure. Very entertaining, very informative. So check those out so you can come prepared for the next episode. We hope everyone's kids are out of school and you're kicking off a great summer. I know that's coming up right now. So we'll see you in a couple of weeks, and it's going to be the same chill time at the same chill network. Thank you for joining us. Adios.